Welcome back to the second installment of Banjo Wisdom, in which I'm going to tell you some stories, give you some advice, and hopefully teach you how to play Cripple Creek. Now, one thing that you're going to need to continue these lessons effectively is a banjo. And if you don't have a banjo already, you will likely have to go buy one. So I'm going to give you some advice about how to buy a banjo. The first advice is get a good banjo. Now, there's lots of good banjos out there, and a really fine banjo is going to be very expensive. So if you're really committed to being a good banjo player, at some point you're going to need to buy a very good banjo, and you're going to have to spend some money to do that. Or if you can find a rich benefactor, have them spend the money and just give you the banjo. That might be the best of all possible worlds. In fact, gosh, I wish I had done that myself. So anyway, a good banjo for bluegrass music is going to be one made out of solid wood. It will have usually a maple rim, and most often will have a tone ring. I recommend the flathead tone ring, which is what Earl Scruggs had, and we all want to sound like Earl Scruggs. So some of the better brands out there now are Huber. That's a really good banjo. Deering banjos are very good. Osborne Chief is very good. Stellings are very good. But there's all kinds of good banjos, but whatever banjo you get, you're going to want to play it first. And there's a couple of tips about playing a banjo in a store or at someone's house while you're buying it. The first thing is, many banjos do not sound good from the position you're in when you're playing it. So for instance, I'm on this side of the banjo, but the sound of the banjo is mainly going that way. So one way to be able to judge how the banjo sounds is to stand in front of a wall. Now, you're going to look stupid doing that, and some of us look stupid even when we're not doing that. But if you stand in front of a wall, you know, like maybe a foot from the wall, that sound is going to bounce off that wall and come back into your face. And if you turn your head this way, then instead of your face, it'll go into your ear, which is even better. And you'll get a really good idea of what that banjo sounds like. Now, if the music store happens not to have any walls, then you can hold the banjo like this and play like this. And then the sound's coming up towards you. So that's helpful. Other things that are helpful is to bring somebody with you. Someone who knows what a banjo should sound like. Or if you prefer, you can just bring someone who will tell you, yes, that's great, yes, that's great, yes, that's great. So either of those options, I mean, just whatever suits your taste there. So play the banjo, see if you like the sound. Now, sometimes you won't like the sound of the banjo, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not the banjo you should get. The first time I went to New York, this was around 1998 or possibly 1999. I was doing some business in Manhattan. By the way, don't ask me about my business. So I was in Manhattan working, and I knew that Mandolin Brothers was in Staten Island. Now, you might be saying, Mandolin Brothers, we're talking about banjos. Well, yes, Mandolin Brothers, in fact, sells banjos. It just so happens that their family name is Mandolin. Actually, no, I don't think their family name is Mandolin. They do sell mandolins, but they have banjos there. Anyway, trust, I'm not lying to you. I'm telling you the truth. So I went to Mandolin Brothers from Manhattan to Staten Island. I took a taxi. As the first time I was in New York, I had no idea that that's not really the best thing to do, because when I got there, it cost me $50, and I thought, oh no, I don't have $50 to get back to Manhattan. Anyway, there was a very nice banjo in there. It was a 1925 Gibson RB3, which had a arch top, an original 5-string neck, and I didn't really expect to like it because I normally like the flat top banjos. But anyway, I played the banjo, and it didn't sound so good to me. But I played it for a while anyway, because you don't often get to play a classic banjo like that. So I played it, wasn't really that impressed with the sound. I put it down. I walked around the store for a little while later, and then I came back to it, and I played the same banjo again. And that time, it sounded really good to me. And I think what happened was, I had a preconceived notion of what I wanted the banjo to sound like when I sat down with it the first time. So it didn't sound good. But then after a while, once I knew what to expect from that banjo, I went back to it, and when I played it, I was judging the banjo on its own terms. And that time, I really did like the banjo. And I've read an article in which Sonny Osborne describes a very similar circumstance when he bought his Granada back in the mid-70s, I think it was. He said practically the same story I just told you. He played it, he wasn't that impressed. He went and ate dinner, and then he thought, well, maybe there was something there, and he went back and played it, and he loved it. And of course, if you hear Sonny Osborne's Granada banjo, it's wonderful. So, by the way, when I left Mandolin Brothers, I asked them what's the best way to get back to Manhattan, and they told me take the ferry and the bus, and it cost me $1.50. So that was an important lesson to learn. So those are my tips for buying a banjo. I should say, though, if you can't afford a fine banjo, get whatever banjo you can. It reminds me of that scene from Fort Apache when Victor McLaughlin tries the whiskey and it's terrible, but he says,
well, it's better than no whiskey at all, sir.
So even a bad banjo is better than no banjo at all. So let's go ahead and continue the lesson on Cripple Creek. As you remember from the last lesson, I taught you the forward roll, which is 5, 2, 1, 5, 2, 1. And I taught you the alternating thumb pattern, which is 3, 2, 5, 1, 4, 2, 5, 1, 3, 2, 5, 1, 4, 2, 5, 1. And now I'm going to teach you a pull-off. Now a pull-off combines some work with the right hand and some work with the left hand. Basically, you're going to play 2 notes in succession. The first one is going to be plucked with the right hand, and the second one is going to be plucked with the left hand. So on this first pull-off, I'm going to show you, I'm going to use my middle finger on the first string on my right hand, and my middle finger on the first string on my left hand, 2 frets up from the capo. Now remember, I have the capo on in the A position because that's where people generally play Cripple Creek. So 2 frets up from the capo, it's really the 4th fret on the banjo. I'm going to put my middle finger, and then when I pluck that string with my right hand, it makes 1 note, and then I pull that string with the left hand and it makes the 2nd note. So here's a pull off. And that can be done on any string. And in the song Cripple Creek, you use that technique on the 3rd string, on the second fret up from the capo. I'm going to pluck the 3rd string with my thumb on my right hand, and I'm going to pull the 3rd string with my middle finger on my left hand. Okay, so now we know 3 things, all of which will be used in Cripple Creek. We know the forward roll, 5, 2, 1, 5, 2, 1. We know the alternating thumb pattern, 3, 2, 5, 1, 4, 2, 5, 1. And we know the pull-off. So hopefully that's enough banjo wisdom for today. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you well, actually, I'm not going to see you next time. You'll see me, but I really don't. Can I can't see? No. You'll see me next time. God bless you.